Today, I'm going to be talking about my big problem with superhero comics. Why I'm pissed. Also, big shout out to Space Brain. He's here today. Space Brain.
Hi, thank you for having me. I will be a news correspondent on today's episode. I hope that everyone doesn't hate me.
They will. In Marvel comic book news, not the movies, comic books, there is a sales slump going on over there. Okay, they're not doing so great. And so some people were asking why. What's up? And so the VP of sales, this guy David Gabriel, he said that he tried to say that people didn't want diversity in comics and tried to blame the sales slump on their new minority and female characters. Because if you didn't know, Marvel, they kind of did a big overhaul, another reboot of their entire universe with the all new, all different Marvel. And a big part of this push of the all new, all different was having all these new #1s with all these new characters where, you know, Logan is gone, so we have Laura X-23 taking up the mantle of Wolverine. You have a female Thor. You have Kamala Khan, Miss Marvel. She's a Muslim character. She has her own title. Miles Morales shows up, the Black Spider-Man from another universe. He shows up in the 616 now. You have a lot of things going on, like all these new characters. Oh yeah, and recently they made Iron Man a black girl or something. I haven't read it. I don't know if it's good or not. I have no idea. But like, there's Squirrel Girl. There's tons of female titles, okay? They have been doing a lot of stuff with more diversity and more female titles. But in my opinion, as someone who was reading Marvel pretty consistently for a few years there, what drove me away as a reader, because I'm a part of the sales slump, I haven't been buying Marvel comics for like over 6 months.
You haven't?
Yeah.
Why not?
Well, Secret Wars is what pissed me off. I was like, I'm done. Like, at Secret Wars, like, it just, they kept doing these Marvel events, and they would reboot, and like every 6 months to a year, you would get all these new #1s, and they would just like fuck every story that was going on. And then it was all about events. I got event fatigue. There's like, oh, there's AVX, and then they follow that up with this, and they follow it up with this, and this, and this, and it's just like Secret Wars, and then Secret Wars is gonna, you know, redo the whole Marvel 616, and everything is a part of it, and nobody can keep up with these ridiculous crossover storylines. They want you to buy a million fucking things, and it just sucks. It just sucks. And you'll find a title that you love, and then in 6 months it'll be gone. It's just like, I can't invest my time and money and my brain power into that sort of stuff. Like, that's what you're gonna pull, you know? It's just a really bad marketing scheme, and this is something I was really worried about when I heard that Disney bought Marvel. I was like, fuck. Disney's gonna come in and they're gonna try to make this more profitable with their executives who have analytics and pie charts, and they're just gonna fucking ruin it, because it's like, comic books have always been on the brink of like going under, and that's kind of how it should be, okay? I don't know, like, that's how it's always been. You're never gonna make these profitable, especially through those sorts of means of like, oh, we'll just reboot every 6 months and alienate all of our hardcore readers who like just, you know, following their team and whatever. And God, they fucked over the X-Men. Oh, that was another whole thing, you know, because Fox owns the rights to the X-Men. They're fucking over the X-Men comics. They were like killing them off, and there's no new X-Men, and then they had some pox that they got from the fucking Inhumans, and it was just like, I don't want to read this. It's fucking depressing. So I'm out.
There's a sales slump?
There's a sales slump, yes. And because there's a sales slump, some folks asked their vice president of sales why there's a sales slump. And David Gabriel responded by saying some stuff. He was just kind of talking out of his ass, I think. But he tried to blame the women and minority characters, all these new female and minority characters in the all-new, all-different Marvel push, blame them for their sales slump. And not blaming themselves for giving readers event fatigue, rebooting like every 6 months to a year, just crossover-itis, like just, I don't know, firing creative teams after 6 months and then starting over. It's just the worst. It's not your female characters, dude. It's you. It's you, Marvel, Disney. It's you! When Secret Wars started, I was like, I'm out. And I haven't. And that was like, it was right when I started hosting Marvel's Off the Rack, when I did that show. That's like right when I stopped.
Well, wait, Are you saying that your own show for Marvel burned you out on Marvel Comics?
I mean, it may have contributed a little bit, yeah. Just like seeing what that corporate environment was like and how it's not really about the storylines and creating this awesome like living continuity that you follow characters for years, and like they have these really intricate storylines that are really amazing. It's like television, you know, how you can really like make a character grow over so many years, issues. It's crazy. And they don't have that anymore. They don't do that. What they do is, oh, we'll do this title for a while, and then when it crashes, like they just throw shit at the wall, see what sticks. Everything else that doesn't stick, doesn't sell enough, they'll just cycle it out and just throw more shit at the wall. We're going to try more shit.
Now, a lot of critics of the Marvel Comics, of the all new, all different, were saying that there's too much diversity and that they're calling that more of a gimmick than genuine storytelling. Do you have something to say of that?
Well, I don't think that's entirely wrong either. It does feel like kind of a gimmick, and I feel like they did go a little overboard maybe with it. It's like, we don't need everybody to be switched around. And honestly, that's not how you make diverse, interesting characters, by just taking Iron Man and making Iron Man a black girl, which I don't give a fuck if Iron Man's a black girl, but it's just like, why don't we just make a black girl who's an awesome character that in her own right, that doesn't have somebody else's bullshit attached to her, and she can just be a great character because you write her really well and the readers like her and they get invested in her storyline, and then like she's in movies 20 years later, making millions of dollars for you. Like Storm, Storm's her own character. That's why I like the X-Men too. All the females, they're their own characters. They're not Supergirl, Batgirl, Here's my thing. There's no hard and fast rule for what to do. It's a case-by-case basis. Like, for example, they had Jane Foster become Thor. And that I have no problem with. It's whoever is worthy of the power of Thor can be Thor. So it's already established that somebody else can be Thor and have his powers. And she just happens to be worthy. And she's got cancer, so when she's like not Thor, she's like dying. And there's a lot of interesting stuff going on there that I was like, okay, this is interesting. Like, I like this concept. But then there's other characters where you're just like, after a while it just kind of feels like you're trying too hard, or it does feel gimmicky, condescending a little bit. When you just start doing this across the board, though, then it raises some alarm flags for me. What are you guys doing? Although the thing is, too, is they definitely have made way more comics for girls in the past few years than they have, like, forever. So I'll give them that. Like, they've made a ton of titles for girls. I loved A-Force, although it got canceled. But I loved it, and that was like an all-female team. It was like so good. But Squirrel Girl is fucking killing it. I don't think that title's not doing well. Miss Marvel, that title's doing super well. So I mean, you have female-led and minority-led characters that are doing great. So it's not, again, it's a case-by-case basis. What is an authentic, good character? What is just some garbage you guys are trying to do to pull to sell me some stuff,
Yes, I think overall, Marvel seems to be more interested in pulling some kind of sales scheme to pull in new readers versus trying to appeal to the existing fan base that loves comics and loves stories such as yourself.
Yes, it is. Because the thing about comics is it's always going to be a niche market, okay? It's never going to be a mainstream thing, especially now in the digital age. In fact, I don't believe that monthlies are going to be able to survive in the next 5 years. I think it's like all going to go on digital, and if it does well, then you can buy a hard copy of the trade or something. I just feel like that's where everything's going. So it's a weird time for comics in general. And Marvel's, I guess they're trying what they can to keep it afloat. But honestly, I think instead of doing event after event after event and trying to tie all these titles together and rebooting every 6 months, you should give someone who really cares about whatever title and let them, like, have a contract with them for, like, 3 years, and let them work on these characters and, like, oversee all the different books, like Chris Claremont did in the 80s with the X-Men. It was so good because he was, like, the mastermind behind them for, like, over 10 years, So he really had time to develop these characters, and he had input from his editors, input from his artists. He worked with other people. It wasn't all him, but he was, like, the George Lucas of the X-Men universe, And he's the one who made them A-listers and, like, huge stars,
Can you compare that to Kevin Feige and what he does for the movie industry?
Yes. Yes. He's a mastermind behind the MCU who oversees it and makes sure everything, you know, because it is a living, breathing continuity is a wild animal, okay? When you have all these different characters and all these different titles and some of them cross over and like there's a lot of shit going on. So you need someone there to oversee it, to be the mastermind behind it, to keep everything flowing, you know?
Well, I have a question.
What?
Why do we need continuity these days in comics when you have Marvel putting out almost 50 different titles per month? There are very few people reading all of those titles. Keeping up with the continuity must be a nightmare. Why even bother?
Well...
What if they did away with continuity for a while, just to get back to the kind of stories that you like that are just in an individual issue ongoing?
It's a problem, okay? And there's no real right answer to this. I think that part of the reason why comics are as special as they are is because of the fact that they have this long-standing continuity. Like, you can't do that in other mediums, you know? I mean, you've had the X-Men going since, like, 1965 or something. Like, it's like these characters have been around for decades, and there's all of these storylines and all this history behind them. Such a rich tapestry that for people like me who like to deep dive into fictional universes, it's very fulfilling. You have these, like, relationships with these characters over, like, your life. It's crazy. It's really interesting storytelling.
Wow, it sounds like you've got quite a problem with superhero comic books these days.
I do. And you know what? That's okay, though, because there's lots of other brands that I can go to. Recently, I've been reading a lot of humanoids books, so I've been reading a lot of European weird shit, which is pretty awesome.
And could you tell me, what would an episode of the Dune Club be like?
Okay, so what's going to happen is I'm actually going to have a pre-orientation video for you to watch before you read, to kind of give you a download on some information, right? So that'll help you kind of get into it. And then we're going to have our but you can skip it. It's orientation. You know, you don't have to do it, but it's recommended. And then you have your first class, all right? And we're going to talk about the first 60 or so pages that we've read. And I'm going to go over the characters that have been introduced. We're going to talk about the main themes and concepts. And if you have any questions at the end, we'll turn it over to the audience and talk about your ideas and your opinions on this work of fiction, science fiction. So it'll be a lot of fun. It'll be interactive.
And I imagine we'll get to hear a lot from your expertise about Dune during the episodes.
Well, yeah, totally. I mean, I'm here as a guide, you know? I'm here to help you. Because there's a lot of stuff in here. Like, there's a lot of high-minded concepts going on in here. So I can help you navigate some of that shit. 'Cause it's a lot, you know?